Hello everyone. In continuation to the course on healthcare quality management, infection control and patient safety, in the module 1 of Foundations of Healthcare Quality and Infection Control, we will be dwelling into the foundation and evolution of healthcare quality. So the evolution of healthcare quality improvements and frameworks we will be discussing over here. The evolution of quality in healthcare, the Donabedian model of the structure, process and outcome, the quality improvement framework overview of PDCA and PDSA, TQM, the total quality management, lean management, and Six Sigma. The evolution of quality in healthcare is a need to understand where it emphasizes more on the Donabedian model. The Donabedian model of structure, process, and outcome. So, what it is? The Donabedian model is one of the method of evaluating the standard of medical care. And this has been one reason that it was created by a researcher and a physician, Evidis Donabedian. It was more in the time when the medical care was one which was evolving. And if you do go into the deep lessons of 1960s to 1980s where the complete evolution of the Donabedian model was there. The structure, the process and the outcome. You can call it as results of the healthcare, which are the main three dimensions which are the interconnected components that make this model a quality evaluation. It talks about the evaluation of quality where the Donabedian model emphasizes more on the structure, process and outcome. The term structure describes the healthcare environment. If there is a hospital, the entire hospital gamut is one which is emphasis more on the structure part. The structure covers the staff's qualification, resources and infrastructure of the entire healthcare organization. You can call it as healthcare company or a hospital, whatever it may be. The interactions between patients and the healthcare professional or hospital employee are the part of the process. So it covers patient education, diagnosis and therapy. The results quantify how healthcare affects patient. So most of the time the healthcare outcomes are derived on the entire structure and process. They concentrate on both immediate and long-term outcomes like patient happiness, patient giving more satisfaction and the health enhancement, which is the major outcome of the healthcare process. So this is an structure, process and outcome which will be seen more into healthcare institutions taking when there is a quality initiative. The structure, as I emphasize more, is on the infrastructure, the staff and equipment. The process will be more on the healthcare delivery and the procedures, which is a major chunk where we find most of the time the patient or patient's relative dwell into the entire system, and the outcomes are one which we are expecting. To improve the outcome, we have to more work on the process and the structures. The health results, the patient's happiness, patient satisfaction will be more on the part of these processes. So to come back actually to see what structure has to be interconnected with all these three. Reflect the service or provider's characteristics. So who are the providers over here? The hospital employees, yes. The healthcare providers such as staff to patient ratio and the service operating hours. These are the structure things. So these are also known as input measures. So it will be like the process is interconnected with structure and process is interconnected with outcomes. Next comes the process. Show how your system and procedure work together to produce the intended results. The waiting time for a senior clinical review or a clinician, whether a patient receives specific care in form of standard care. If the hospital staff member wash their hands, nurses come up to their procedures, how incidents are documented and handled, whether it is an incident which is coming in the IPD or even emergency ward. Whether by the patients are notified of delays as they waited for an appointment, and are a few examples that can be cited in most of the time that process delays are one which we encounter most of the time in healthcare institutions. The major dissatisfaction of the patient comes more from the process delays and which are ideally affected by the structure. How does it really relate and how does it really affect the outcomes? As I said, the structure process are more interconnected. It is also interconnected to the health outcomes. The health outcome shows the result of your improvements and the influence on the patient. It influences on the patient's health needs. They show if these objectives have been accomplished. What does it results to? It results in mortality. Ideally, the patient is more concerned of the morbidity part. The delays also affect the mortality sometimes. Even the hospital get more issues with length of stay of a patient. So shorter hospital stay always will try to give more better health outcomes. Fewer hospital acquired infections, the HAIs, which becomes a major issue with the superbugs which we find increase major patients' calamities. The fewer adverse events which are encountered which cannot be denied and the harms. So we do have lot of trajectories, adverse events, hospital acquired infections and the length of stay increased. Sometimes fewer emergency admissions and better patient experiences are a few examples which are of the outcome measurements. We do see that key outcomes are one which can be measurable. Likewise, processes and structure are also one part which can be measurable. Next come in this line of discussion is of the quality improvement framework. So what is that we need to see and more emphasis comes to the PDSA part, where there might be a little difference actually sometimes that the word of PDCA and PDSA are interchangeably used. Lot of confusion comes because these are the two things which came in evolving when the quality journey started, evolution of quality started. A cyclical approach to quality improvement is PDSA. Although it is frequently compared to the scientific method, that its cyclical methodology sets apart from the lean philosophy. That is more emphasis to reduce errors over there in lean philosophy, where versus in PDCA, you may find that it has a quality improvement approach. So building an industrial foundation laid by the statistician Edwards Deming, where we say that Edwards Deming in 1986 developed PDSA. Statistician Gerald Langley modified PDCA for the healthcare industry. We do encounter a lot of a time that the checking part makes more comparison actually to the study part which is there in PDSA and PDCA that is a check. So plan, do, check and act, where versus in PDSA it is plan, do, study and act. The original concept developed by Walter Shewhart, where specification, production and inspection was the one which Shewhart exemplified it. And he developed it where we can find that the major credit goes to the development of PDSA is more with the Shewhart's philosophy. The four phases of PDSA are plan, do, study and act, which makes the quality improvement framework much stronger. You can decide on a project goal during the planning phase. Whatever the problem may come, like a medication error or extended length of a stay of a patient or major issues which may come into your OPD, or sometimes you may have some discharge delays. So you can do a PDSA, yes it can be done, and the major goal should be during the planning phase. To achieve the goal of those objectives that you have identified, particularly for all the examples that I have stated, must be implemented on small scale. So there is an expectation that there can be a cycle of PDSA. Yes, there is an expectation that you can take a following stage for that. The scope is small, so the adjustment can made be quickly. The reason is like there can be a frequent part of and act, study and act. So expected and actual data outputs are compared during the study stage. So there is a close connected of actual data where you can say the fresh or a coming, or you can say there is a comparison with the data in the study. To procedure a better strategy in act stage, you integrate the information which is available over there and from the first three stages. So what can be the better procedure? The better procedure, these four processes should be thoroughly thought out and repeated. Plan, do, study and act. It can again be repeated in terms of a cycle. So PDSA is a key element of the model of improvement and is not a standalone technique. There are much more integrated techniques of quality which you find that it is more towards a quality improvement strategies. So PDSA is identified to be one among the strong and the most important model for improvement in quality. It has more emphasis on giving a technique actually which has been identified with lot of improvement which you find out of integration comes ahead. Then comes total quality management, that is called as TQM. So TQM prioritizes continuous improvement and keeps patient satisfaction in mind. TQM can be exemplified in other industries also. TQM is one which is one reason that even in most of the management institutions you may find that total quality management is a strategy which is very frequently applied. The strategy is frequently applied in supply chain management and patient satisfaction initiatives, particularly in healthcare. So TQM depends on performance metrics and data driven decision making. So you may find lot of total quality management are more concerned with the data and making the process more decision oriented, or you may say that if the managers or the administrators or the people in quality have to take a decision with respect to the data which is being submitted to total quality approaches, they have to fix the problems, they have to utilize with the successful indicators that they have made, and that's how it will be reflected into the better processes. So it is all interconnected with, and there where we can say that total quality management is more towards continuous improvement, where in the PDSA you saw that it is a model for improvement. The TQM silent characteristics can be identified more like it is a focus on individual. It seeks to assess the final consumer. So patient, if you do identify as a final consumer, you may get more approaches of developing TQM in an organization. The complete team involvement, it involves the entire team and not only the production team. The people who are the deciders are not the one who will be the only one who will decide the fate of the quality improvement. In contrast to other methods of improvement, TQM has more added benefits. The continuous improvement is a technique of continuously improving processes by making minor adjustments. So there is a scope of minor adjustment which will allow actually that the process is entirely taking an improvement, and you will be able to see that and have a straight and strong reflection of those, because workplace circumstances might change. This method aids team in adapting to new situations. Data-driven decision making is mostly contributing actually towards the greater data to evaluate the effectiveness of the procedures. So you have a benefit of even understanding, improving and making more initiatives actually for this improvement. In align to this discussion, the process focused approach of TQM aims actually to minimize the inefficiencies. Lot of time you may encounter a lot of inefficiencies in healthcare, where you have a process of Six Sigma or a lean actually which try actually on the other way for understanding the quality improvement. Now speaking about the lean management technique. The lean management system has a strong connect of Toyota production system. The Toyota production system is the source of lean, and has been identified that whatever lessons that we take, more benefits to lean management is more because of the Toyota production system. So Toyota production system, which seeks to increase productivity and quality by simplifying procedures and adding value by getting rid of these three things, we may come across that this has been made a foundation to lean management. The waste is the muda, inconsistencies is the mura, and the excess burden is the muri. So muda, mura and muri are the three things which you think that you have to get rid of. There where the lean management concept is, or you can say the lean management philosophy is concentrate on getting rid of the three things, that is the waste, that is muda, inconsistencies as mura, and excess burden as muri. This system is often called as Toyota way. This system was created by a Japanese engineer, Taiichi Ohno, and was inspired by the Toyota Motor Corporation. You may say that it is one among the best model of production, and from 1950s as Henry Ford which assembled it and made a Toyota way. So it is one an appreciated model to be studied for getting quality improvement. So value added items or goods that consume were ready to pay for, and you find that to reduce the waste, and while you may say the superfluous goods and services were to decline. Standardization, which promotes dependability and reliability, can be used to combat Mura. So you find that there is a ways to be worked on. Interconsistencies of standardization has to be seen to combat in terms of the Mura, and the excess burden of Muri, where we say that instead of blaming or making the system more difficult, Muri encourages a culture that solves problems. If there is an example to be given, as I say, that sometimes a patient or patient's relative quarrels actually at the counter to the receptionist or even a person who is giving them an appointment. And sometimes when they find that there is a lot of delay actually to that part, and there comes actually the major role of the administrators here to solve the problem. So instead of blaming, actually the administrator will allow the counter desk or the reception person to say that, oh, there is the concept to encourage actually that there should be amicability, listening and resilience to solve the problem. And there we find that instead of not blaming actually that the work or the process has been delayed, you should try to sympathize for that. You should try to make more approaches towards understanding the employee's problem. That is called as Muri. So lean distinguishes 8 categories of the muda or the waste actually, where it identifies first to working on more on the muda to reduce the waste. So work that needs to be modified, what are the issues with the work, and altered or repaired. There are 3 things. Always there, when there is a flaws of work, actually you may find that there are a lot of modifications that it is expected, lot of things that has to be altered, and a repair actually, which is one where we find that the work is more to repaired off, and there is a chances actually that the third thing is much more applicable. So the lean technique is implemented with the aid of 5 guiding principles, where we find lean is one which is recalled at time, and healthcare institutions are not aloof with this. So determining the worth of the product or the service, where we find the product is more, can be a medication, product can be one a process of a medical technology, or the product can be a thing in terms of the diagnosis. Services are all the things that a patient is being rendered with terms of the procedures actually we find, whether by we find that a hospital divisions or other processes which are making it more head-to. So determine what adds value or what should be eliminated. It has to be work with the value stream mapping processes. And we find lot of steps, materials, information flows are one which are giving more chances for the good services providers actually to give more emphasis on making the lean technology more applicable into the healthcare. Remove obstacles or to create flow, which is one reason actually where the popularization of lean methodology has gained a lot, where it tries to establish the pull based. So To eliminate a waste, actually, you need to understand the expected demand. So that's why I say that it is more towards the supply chain or even to the actual problems that the customers are facing. You may find that a lot of benefits of the lean technique are into the actual world. The fifth principle helps to more work on the aim for excellence. So is it that there can be a continuous quality? Yes, there is an expectation always that the quality can be a continuous journey. And the fifth principle emphasizes more on that, the continual waste reduction. These are the efforts, things that has to be put into quality which will try to give the major benefits beyond patient's expectation or customers' needs. Sometimes this is one a very catchy words where your marketing team will try to emphasize and put it into the hospital's banners or posters, or even they will try to see that your quality team also emphasize to get a benefit of all this, that how you put beyond the patient's expectation. In aligned to the lean philosophy or management, Kaizen model is one which focuses more on team-based, continuous and quick improvements. So there are some minor adjustment that has to be done with the lean where it can be fitted more into the Kaizen model. The fundamental component of lean. So Kaizen is being derived from a Japanese term where it signifies more on good or a change, where whole lot of the quality improvement journey or the philosophy is more driven with the Japanese approach towards improvement. Lean uses a variety of tools to accomplish its goal, where you may find that Kaizen focus more on team-based, continuous and quick improvement. You may get a benefit from the strategies that are being used in Kaizen model. There is even one Japanese tool of quality, that is 5S, which you may be identifying more in terms of working with your housekeeping or even your quality people, or you may get it more benefit into the regular administrative processes of that, which stands more for the first S of sorting, setting in order, shining, standardizing and sustaining. All this is more towards improvement as well as even continuous quality. So the 5S is gaining a lot of importance in terms of developing the philosophy of lean, and is one of these that it can help to keep the workplace more clean, more organized, and it is mostly used in hospitals. We come now to the next discussion on Six Sigma. It's a very popularly used quality tool. The goal of Six Sigma process is on improvement methodology. All these entire processes that we are discussing are more towards quality improvement. But this quality improvement methodology is to decrease the final product variation. So a lot of time there is an accumulated waste also. Accumulated waste becomes an issue of sustainability in the organization. That way we find this American engineer Bill Smith of Motorola, he created this strategy. And now we find a lot of emphasis of Six Sigma from the 1986 tool date now in 2025. You have been finding that a lot of benefits of Six Sigma has been with the management, production industry, manufacturing industry, and even the healthcare industry. The management team always often healthcare institution try to utilize the statistical data, which always creates a benchmark. So you may find a lot of benchmarks actually are to be comprehended with the success of the processes that Six Sigma is using. If a process generates fewer than 3.4 fault per million cycle, it is considered optimal. Optimal to be utilized. So our emphasis on optimal utilization lies to the culture and the philosophy of Six Sigma. So Six Sigma is mostly applied in manufacturing, which has been being seen as the first industry that has benefited a lot for Six Sigma. But the benefits of Six Sigma is to reduce errors and irregularities. You may identify a lot of errors which are there in healthcare or hospitals, or the irregularities can be curtailed, can be minimized. If we do study the intricacies of quality, which is more coming from the promotional strategies, and healthcare institutions should try more in promoting the uniformity. Your patient's entire happiness or the outcome or the stay or delay will be more on reducing this. The Six Sigma is supported by two primary processes. One is the DMA-DV and the second one is the DMAC. You may be more familiar with DMAC because DMAC is one which is renounced a lot of emphasis being given on that. But there is the DMA-DV actually is one where we find that these are the two processes that we need to understand more with the Six Sigma. Let's examine the very familiar thing of DMAC actually, which is there in the center of concentration on the current procedures that we find that lot of healthcare institutions are taking, particularly those who are more emphasized towards the quality improvement are for DMAC. One Six Sigma method for improving the current procedures. We have seen some procedures which are starting and giving continuous, some procedure which are working on the last end, and some of the procedures of Six Sigma which are improving the current procedures. So current procedures also demand quality improvement. Yes, it is required. So DMAC is a Six Sigma process used to optimize existing processes. So DMAC stands for define the opportunity for improvement, why and what is the way actually for that. Measure the performance of your existing process. Measure is one which gives you more statistical data. Analyze the process to find defect and the root cause, where the RCA concept of analysis has a great and more definitive benefit of that part. Improve process by addressing root causes. So root causes is one which becomes more emphasis of taking more benefits of analyzing the DMAC. Control and improve process and access the future process outcome. So improvement and the performance are much more interconnected, and where DMAC stands more in terms of getting the more benefits of that. The analysis phase is when majority of the DMAC improvement effort is done. And how do we connect this? It is more connected with the fishbone diagram or the Ishikawa diagram actually that you have been more emphasized, and the team has to be more trained for that. And you will find lot of those bones of the fishbone diagrams comes to be as a problem actually, where you find the diagram's head is where you have the major problem line, and the ribs of the fish actually follows the spine, which makes more a strategy actually to understand what are the separate categories of the problems. The problems can be varied actually. You may find a lot of problems which may come from the patient's waiting time at the OPD or even the emergency department where the admissions is very difficult, where your HAIs, particularly hospital acquired infection which has come from your ventilated associated pneumonia or even your surgical site infection, or sometimes even from the medication errors. So all this has to be emphasized to represent more into the key healthcare fishbone categories. The categories can be of people, where you may say the hospital staff, the training part, or even the healthcare communication, which is coming into the strategies of the category of people, where the first and the very strong bone of the fishbone diagram can be of the people. The second is the methods actually. The methods can be the hospitals or healthcare policies, the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, the clinical guidelines which has been defined, or the formularies actually which are being stated on paper or even on the system. The third and the very important bone comes with the machines, equipments, which are even the devices, the instrument, and even the IT system which has been developing a lot and to make this bone much more a thicker bone. The minor, I may say, the thin bones of the fish can be the environment, the facility cleanliness or space or the noise, which you sometimes identify more as an external world, but it is more contributing actually to make the process problems, which can be one and affecting problems. The materials comes as one of the thick bones, which can be medicines or personal protective equipments or even the supplies, and so lot of other things which comes in materials, which becomes a material management entire issue in healthcare as a major problem. And last actually into this category is the measurement. So what is the measurement? The measurement comes from the incorrect data or sometimes the delays in reporting, and so lot of other processes which we may find that the measurements are inaccurate or incorrect or insufficient, or sometimes very difficult that the measurements are not being even taken. So you may say that these categories affect a lot, and you may take the DMAC improvement in the lean methodology actually as a problem, which can even be helpful with the strong philosophy of Six Sigma. Thank you very much.